Are you ready to unlock the secrets of brand innovation? Here you'll discover unexpected ways to make your brand soar in value. Get ready for inspiring stories, actionable tips, and insights you'll need to build your brand and learn an entirely new way to fly. This is the Hummingbird Effect. And now your host, Wendy Coulter.
Hi, I'm Wendy Coulter, and I help CEOs and marketing leaders unlock the power of their brands. For years, business leaders have focused on marketing tactics, but what really matters is creating a strong brand. Think of it like the Hummingbird Effect. Small innovations in branding can lead to surprisingly big results in other areas, like the valuation of your business, a stronger culture, and a marketing message that resonates. Welcome to the show. Today I have Hanna with me. Hanna is our marketing strategist at Hummingbird Creative Group. Hey, Hanna.
Hi, Wendy.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Hanna and I often stop at the Starbucks before the show and catch up on whatever we need to catch up on. So we've had that kind of day today.
Yes.
So cheers. And I know you love Starbucks. So joyful morning.
Joyful morning.
Yeah.
Glad to be in the new year, so that's joyful.
Anything else bringing you joy today?
A lot of things are bringing me joy. I'm excited to be here to learn from Joe. I got to spend the morning with you. Like I said, it's the new year, so it's just a joyful day all around.
Well, I'm joyful because I have a great friend in business on the show with me today, Joe Novara, who is a coach and a speaker and has written books and has just done so much in the time that we've known each other. And so I'm excited to talk to Joe today about the Hummingbird Effect. Joe, what's bringing you joy this morning?
Oh, my goodness. There's so many things that bring me joy. You know, I have a wonderful family. I have a great wife. I have an amazing life, and I love my business. I love my clients. The list can go on. I have a killer life. I have no complaints.
That is awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That is awesome. Always good to hear. There's a lot of complaining going on in the world today. So it's good to bring that up and have that joyful thought. So thank you. So you and I have known each other a long time.
Yes.
And I think it goes back to when you owned the printing company,
right?
Which would have been about what year? Do you even know?
It closed 11 years ago, so it's going to be somewhere between 17 years ago when I moved here and 11 years, unless I knew you in Brooklyn, which I don't believe I did.
I don't know. I can't do the accent.
Yeah.
So, no, I've been in the South in North Carolina all my life and, might have visited, but no.
Then it's definitely somewhere within the last 17 years.
Yeah. And so, your background is diverse. You started out, I know, in a completely different industry, and then moved through the printing business, which I knew you in, and then now you're in the coaching world today. Why don't you tell us about your path, though? Because I don't know that I know much about you prior to the printing business.
Well, I started in the printing industry and I took a break for about 5 years and I was selling real estate in downtown Brooklyn for about 5 years. And during that time, I still kept my hand in the printing industry, though, doing more print brokering. But my full-time gig was selling real estate. When 9/11 happened, which is part of my Hummingbird Effect, to be quite honest with you, when 9/11 happened, it made things a little difficult, and so I decided that I had a new daughter at that time, and just decided it was time to go back into printing, and so that's when I started working at a company in downtown Brooklyn named Abigail. Was there for several years before moving here and buying my own company.
Awesome.
Yeah. So then during the last year in the printing industry was when I was trying to figure out what my next move was going to be. And that's when I actually was sitting in the audience and saw Bill Davis, who I didn't know at the time. He was the speaker. And I said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start training people. And that was the beginning of that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love Bill too.
Yeah.
Shout out to Bill Davis.
Always a shout out to Bill Davis.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so tell me a couple of fun facts about Joe.
Oh my God. Well, people are always surprised at how much I like heavy metal.
That's right.
Yes, and
you and my daughter have a little bit of commonality.
Yeah,
in the music
I should have taken her
choice.
to see the Baby Metal concert a few weeks ago. That was a lot of fun. But then, I'm also, it's funny because my favorite musician, though, well, my two favorites are Janis Joplin and John Prine. So, and I can listen to that. So they are like the total opposite of metal, which is really funny. But then, another thing that's a fun fact about me is that I actually like to just really chill and just watch movies. And I love just chilling out. And then I love hiking. That's the other thing. I'm a
you do
big,
love hiking.
Yes, you could see the pictures all the time.
Facebook.
And I'd like to actually start a men's business hiking group. That's something I'd like to do in 2025.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so you've done your goal setting.
Yes,
so
that's one of the things. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Joe tries to help me set goals from time to time. That can be challenging, but good for you. All right. Well, let's kind of delve into the hummingbird effect for you,
right?
And just talk to us about a specific instance where something seemingly small led to something in a different area that had an amazing effect for you, and just talk through the hummingbird effect for us.
Okay. Well, you heard me say earlier that one. For me, while it wasn't really small, what happened with 9/11 with the towers falling, I watched the whole thing from the roof of my building in downtown Brooklyn.
Wow.
And after the first plane, then I watched the rest of everything unfold. So to be quite honest with you, went into a very bad depression over that and stopped showing up for work. And that's what led to me having to go into the back into printing, and because I needed the structure. So now so that was 2001. Let's fast forward to 2013 now, when I go into the speaking business, speaking and coaching. So we have the pandemic happens, okay? And I had already been speaking and I had been coaching and was doing fairly well, okay? But when the pandemic happened, okay, I watched people starting to panic, okay? And I watched people starting to have massive anxiety and immediately sabotaging their own lives very quickly out of fear. And my brain immediately tapped back into what happened in 2001 when 9/11 happened. And that was the initial, we'll say the initial situation that triggered this one for me, where I said that I immediately had a brain shift. And I said, I will not allow what happened then to me to happen again. And so I just felt this, I had this surge inside of me that all of a sudden I started writing a book immediately. I wanted to help people. So I started writing the book, Mindset Matters, Setting Goals and Securing Sales. I wrote that book in about 2 weeks. And then Julie, my wife, she edited it, and we got the book published right away, thankfully to KDP. But that wasn't the end, because if you remember, Wendy, you had helped me with a few of these. I had been doing, for the several years prior to that, doing monthly events, workshops and events. And those events were helping people.
They were so fun.
Yeah, they were fun. They were helping people.
Great connections, great content.
But the what happened with the pandemic, though, now that made us have to take this online. So I could have done what a lot of people were doing, which was shutting down their businesses, or I could figure out how to pivot. And so that's when we started doing my monthly events online. And we started doing, like, thank God for the wife I have. You want to talk about joy? She was letting me hang up black curtains all across our entire living room. And we had cameras and computers all over, and this TV screen connected, so that we were doing live events from our living room, and we were having people. And now we were reaching people all over the world.
Yeah.
Okay, people who needed help. And then, as we were coming out of the pandemic, that's when I felt I needed to up my events, and we started doing some 2-day events on the. While we were doing it virtually. And so when we moved into get back into real live, again, I needed my events to not be 2-3 hour long events. I needed my events to be really impactful. And that's when we started really making them much longer, much bigger, much more through several times throughout it. Like, I feel like we have times where we're like blasting music and just like really trying to, get people super excited. And we have these breakout sessions where people are really deep. I'm walking around and I'm seeing people like crying because of the impact we're having. Now, so where this goes with this, though, is now these people are actually going out. Their lives are changing right then and there. And now they're going out and having an impact on other people. And that's the thing. That's what I wanted to be a part of. I wanted to be a part of helping people to help people. And to me, that's what it should really be all about. Now, the coaching, I'm with my coaching again. So this triggered again from that moment of the pandemic. So it started with 9/11. It took about 13 years for it to really make the big impact. Okay. And when the pandemic happened, then it really exploded for me, which then led me to explode it to other people. But the other thing that happened was I had already been a big fan of Tony Robbins for several years, for many years. But I did the virtual UPW. Oh, wait. So this is where you come into it, Wendy, because you had suggested that I do this virtual workshop. It was the virtual workshop on virtual workshops.
Yes.
And so I took that workshop.
Something for everything.
Yes. And Barry and Blue were their names, and they were going to be they were going to be the organizers of Tony Robbins' upcoming UPW that was going to be virtual, the first one ever virtual. So I decided after doing their thing, I would do the UPW virtual, which then that led me into then seeking out becoming a certified Tony Robbins coach, which now that has just exploded because I've taken multiple courses, which I'm in the middle of one right now with them, a 12-week course. So I've gotten multiple certifications, and that alone has allowed me to just help people so much. I see my clients, they're just, the benefits that they're getting from my experience now has been incredible. But I see what they're doing now is they're going out and helping other people. So that to me, is that what the Hummingbird Effect is all about? Because to me, what I'm seeing is I'm seeing from that one trigger moment that happened 23 years ago has had such an impact on where I am right now sitting in front of you two.
Yeah, that is definitely a hummingbird effect. And you've also mentioned some smaller ones that have happened more recently too. And, I'm just excited that I made a recommendation to you that turned out to make an impact.
Was a great recommendation.
Another little hummingbird effect that I actually didn't realize. So, and it really is all about helping people. And I think helping people to get through those tough things, whether they're big or small, whether it's 9/11, whether it's the pandemic, or whether it's hearing them say they're trying to figure out how to do virtual workshops and making a recommendation. All of those things lead to other amazing changes that that I think you've experienced on different levels. So thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome.
So you've kind of talked about the initial situation of 9/11 and kind of where that left you. State of depression, not sure where to go next, ending up back in the printing industry. Can you talk about how you looked at change when the pandemic hit really differently, and what you learned from what happened in the past? And you touched on this briefly, but like really, how did it make you do things differently the next go round?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing that I was going to do differently was I was going to really focus on my mindset. That was something. So I was constantly trying to stay ahead of my thinking. And if I saw a negative thought even coming in, I had to immediately work on that. Because and I had to stay away from the news as much as I possibly could. The difference was when 9/11 happened, I was watching the same images over and over and over. And so this time I had to, and I'm a runner, and I also like to work out every day. And so when the gyms even opened up, I had to make sure that I stayed as far away from the treadmills that were in front of the CNN or Fox because, they just had endless bad news. Right. So I had to stay as far away from them as possible. That was a big thing for me, was it had to all be about my mindset and what I was allowing into my brain, into my mind. And I encourage people that's got to be your main focus in all areas of your life.
So I know in coaching sessions that you've done with me in the past that mindset was something we talked about a lot. And I feel like the Hummingbird Effect that you're teaching people about mindset today because of what you went through, and you kind of recognize that your mindset was part of the issue.
Yeah.
Talk about that. I mean, I remember during the pandemic us talking, and me, I remember myself talking a lot about just like keeping going, like not letting anything get in the way, and just making sure, which I'm always in motion anyway, part of why Hummingbird really resonates with me in another way, but staying in motion and not letting yourself like get stuck because of these negative things around you. Can you talk about how that's playing out in coaching and your success as a coach today? Maybe an example of where a mindset shift has really impacted someone's business.
Yeah. So I'm working with this one couple, and I don't want to say too much about their business, but they're a wonderful couple, and I've actually spoken to you about them offline, and I coach them each individually. They own a business together, and I'm working with them each individually. And when we first started working together a couple of years ago, each one of them had a very negative mindset, and they have a third partner who I would say is not very supportive of either one of them. And so what we started to focus on and work on was, you have to have, first of all, boundaries. You have to set boundaries for yourselves of what's okay for this person to say to you and what's not okay for this person to say to you. And that right there alone made a big difference for the both of them, because they thought that they had to, whatever this person said, because they were partners, that they had to just stand there and take it. Mm-hmm. And that was a real eye-opener for them. It's like, no, nobody has a right to abuse you or to talk poorly to you. And then it was a matter of starting to change the language that they were saying to themselves and about their business and things like that. And now I love working with these two people. I really do. I get pretty excited every time we're going to have a coaching session with either one of them. And their way they talk, the way they think about their business is just completely different than it was 2 years ago. And I get excited for them both. And that's it. Yeah.
Has that translated to other things in the business? Has it translated to them finding more business? So
it has translated to them to finding other avenues in their business that they're doing that weren't there before. But one of the things that it's translated to is the guy in the business, the husband, he just does so many fun videos now about their business. And he wouldn't have done those before. He would have been worried about what people were saying or thinking about him. And his videos are hilarious.
So it's a culture shift in a big way. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he is so funny and quirky. And that's what I love about him. He's very quirky and funny. And so, so that has been a big thing. And she is actually now doing speaking for women's groups, which she was not doing before. Again, awesome. A fear of what people would have thought about her. And people are very welcoming of her and that's really great. Liking her coming to speak and things like that. Yeah.
Well, so your hummingbird effect has caused other hummingbird effects in other people's lives, which is really, really neat. And they're embarking on some marketing activities that they hadn't done before. And so that should give them great traction moving forward.
I agree.
It sounds like with the couple that you're talking about, them working with you, opening up, let their minds kind of relax to a point where they could be more creative and find different avenues. So do you have any advice for other business owners or anyone to know when they're hitting that point of kind of clogging up their creativity and needing to shift their mindset?
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying about the creativity part is really important because one of the things that I discovered when I was in a dark place was that my own personal creativity was pretty much shut down. Right. Now, I know some people, they find great creativity during their darkest periods. But from a business perspective, I think it prevents us from being creative in how to move our business forward.
Right. You play it safe.
You play it safe. Exactly. That's a great way of putting it. And so I would say that from a creativity standpoint, that it's really important that that you're focused on the positive mindset. I don't know if that's answering your question completely.
It does.
Okay, good.
Take the time to make sure you are positive, and if there's something you're constantly worrying about, it's time to address it.
And I'm a strong believer in the whole thing around positive psychology. I love Sean Aker. I love Martin Seligman, but I also believe that it has to be based in reality. If there's a piano is falling out of the sky and crashing down on you, to say it's not going to hit me, it's not going to hit me, it's not going to hit me, that's just insanity.
You need to be speaking with someone else.
Right.
Yeah. So what kind of advice would you give to other business owners in terms of knowing how the 9/11 impacted you, and it really has, your experience with that has impacted other people now who probably don't even realize it? What advice would you give to business owners that stems from that?
Yeah, I mean, we're all going to have our own version of a 9/11. It could be a divorce. It could be a death. It could be anything. It could be a client that's 80% of your business leaving. It could be, it could be anything. We all have our own version of a 9/11 at some point in our lives. And it's the number one thing it's the people that are going to be around you. Sometimes we have to put other people to the side, because if you have people who are not going to support you and lift you, or at least go through this journey with you during a time like that, you're going to suffer. And it's going to take longer to get through it. And the damage could be, pretty bad. So yeah. I say that it's very important that you, even up front, like, you always try to have, strong people around you, people that like, I have people in my life that that I'm striving to be, I want to, mirror them. I want to, be like them. I admire them. And I had to really work at intentionally having those people in my life. That wasn't always the case. And, it feels good sometimes to be the one that people look up to. But if you're the person, if everybody in your group looks up to you, you need to find a new group.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I will agree with that for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And so that's where one of the things is the people that you surround yourself with is really important.
Yeah, I love that.
Do you want to stay ahead with insightful tips and industry-leading knowledge to build your business value through better branding? Sign up for the Birds of Wisdom email newsletter from Hummingbird Creative Group. The newsletter is packed with expert advice and the latest trends to help you elevate your brand. Visit hummingbird-creative.com today to subscribe. Don't miss out. Join the community, and let's soar together.
I think what's happened with the one coaching client that you've talked about is not only are they able to be more creative, but that leads to innovation as well.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about mindset and innovation and how you feel that can play out for people?
Well, it goes back to the creativity part of it as well. It gives you greater clarity. It opens you up to taking chances that you may, and being, taking risks that, and that again, it allows for more opportunities that would not have been there before. Well, the opportunities would have been there. You would not have seen them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. What about for you, Joe? I think the pivot that you made during the pandemic to go online and do online events was innovative, right? And you and I talked about that at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Some people were really failing miserably with online events. They couldn't create the energy. They didn't have energy themselves. It seemed like a little robotic sometimes. People were just getting on. And so, I think the things that you did, you talk about music and keeping the energy up online to the point that you also mentioned that people became very emotional in some of those events. So,
yes.
So I think that was a great impact that you had with innovation at the time. What are you doing today that's innovative, that's going to take you to kind of the next phase of your business?
Yeah, so, I've been doing this one particular event that I've considered my signature event for the past few years. We call it Total Business Breakthrough, and it's a very deep dive, 2-day, very deep dive. Now we want to start doing something similar, but moving it up, going up a little bit to the C-suite, having a similar event, but that's focused on the C-suite. So obviously we won't be talking as much about getting out there selling. We won't be talking about prospecting. They could be talking about networking, though, still. The people in the C level and, executives, they still need to network just as much as anybody else. And because one thing that I've learned is, especially through my work studying Daniel Goleman, has been that one of the loneliest positions you could ever reach is becoming a CEO. Is one of the loneliest jobs you can have. And they find that the higher up the ladder somebody goes, the lower their emotional intelligence scores go, their EQ scores go down because of that, because they're not interacting with people as much, which I was really surprised by that, because you would think it would go up, but and if they're not intentionally working on it, it's going down. So that I would say is, I really have a heart for helping people in those areas around emotional intelligence, around positive psychology. And that's what I want to bring to these events, to help people that are at a higher level, who we very often, especially in the media, really, and in politics today, really demonize a lot of these people. And so I'd love to be a part of helping them to be better people if given the opportunity.
Love that. I think it's important that you are bringing that stat to the C-suite, and it really resonates with what you said before about having the correct people in your corner, how to know that you've made the connections, because while it might feel like a good friendship, and is it because they're leaning on you? Like, do you tend to want to be in the C-suite of your life? So I think would be really impactful for them to learn from you and just to hear it outright. So I hope that that's something that you are considering in those events.
Yeah, well, again, Dan, I appreciate you saying that. And I do think it's important that we can lean on each other.
Right.
Just to talk about Wendy and myself, it started out as a relationship many years ago that was based in, because I knew Hummingbird Creative Group. My initial relationship as the owner of a printing company was to want to get business from her. Then when I transitioned into the speaker and coach, we already had the relationship established. And at that, so initially I was leaning on Wendy. Then Wendy, she liked what she saw from what I was doing. So she leaned on me for a while as her coach and friend still. And then, that relationship shifted, and I am leaning on Wendy again. Because there are things that, from her organization and Wendy as a person that I want to get in return from our relationship. So it's been very reciprocal over these past however many years it is. And so that's something, I think that kind of piggybacks on what you were saying.
I guess a question to both of you, like, do you have any advice on the mindset changes that you would need to create to know that you have someone like that, like to know when you can turn to Joe to ask questions and vice versa?
So, it's interesting because with being in business for as long as I've been in business, I look back now and realize the relationships that were there early on. I didn't realize what I was getting out of them or what I was giving back and how big of an impact they were having on my business. So I think like when you're in it, you don't necessarily see it so well. And I'm going to go a little bit away from your question, but back to the C-suite comment. I have a very good friend who's a CEO who gained some investment capital, and the new leadership that he's had to bring into the organization has really uplifted him more into the CEO role. And I've seen the mindset, I see it be very, very hard for him to accept where they are wanting him to be, because it takes him out of interactions with people who he leaned on in his business and who leaned on him. And I think them leaning on him, he misses that. a lot because he's not in that role anymore. And so I think that plays into kind of what we're talking about of identifying when, almost like when you're missing something, and who's in your network that you can lean on to help you become more creative, become more innovative, get to that next level in your business. And I think that's part of what Joe and I have been able to do with each other over the years. And it's not always been, it's not ever been about selling. It's not ever been about getting the business. It's been about helping the other person in the place that they are figure out a next step that works. And I think when you do that with people, when you help people in that way, then your business is more successful. Their business is more successful. You get on these great tracks, and mindset's such a huge part of that. And so,
agreed.
Yeah. Did that answer?
It did.
Your question.
I say this every podcast, but I love listening and learning from you, Wendy, and every guest that we have, and it just makes me pay more attention to the decisions and making those impactful changes. So thank you both.
So I'm going to go back to fun facts for a minute because Joe mentioned his wife, Julie. And one fun fact is Joe's married to a copywriter. And we love Julie's work. She helps us out on quite a few projects. And so I love that fun fact about Joe. But Julie kind of helped Joe prepare a little bit for today. So now I'm going to give him a chance to say anything that we haven't asked you questions about today, that has to do with your Hummingbird Effect that you want to make sure to share with us.
Well, so one thing I will say, going back real quickly about my wife, Julie, is the way that we had met at a business networking event. And when we first met, my initial thought was, oh, she's a new business or newer business at the time. And I thought, oh, she could be a potential coaching client. So I asked her to coffee. And when we were having coffee that first time, I said, oh, I think I like her more than wanting her to be a coaching client. So let's see where this can go. And so that was how that started.
Well, there's a Hummingbird Effect.
Yes, exactly.
Trying to get business, ending up with a marriage.
Yes.
That's awesome.
So I get some free copywriting, not all free, and she gets some free coaching. So there you go.
Right. I love it.
I do want to pay her for her services. So
there
I do.
You go.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, so share with our listeners some information on how they can find you, learn about you, get more information.
Sure.
About.
Yeah, so my website is growthacademycoaching.com. That's the name of my business, is Growth Academy Coaching and Training. So that's one place you can go. You can also email me, Joe Novara, and that's an A at the end, okay, novara.com. The other place you can find me if you're interested in my event is totalbusinessbreakthrough.com. And you can always just call me 919-636-9546.
Awesome, Joe. Thank you so much for your time today. This has been fun. It's always great to catch up with you and hear your stories and your insights. So thank you so much. I hope everyone who's listening has a wonderful new year and go out and find your Hummingbird Effect.
Thanks for listening to The Hummingbird Effect with Wendy Coulter. We hope you found this episode valuable. Please be sure to rate and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. To learn more or to work with Wendy and her team, go to hummingbird-creative.com.